Hey there. Tonight, we're diving into a part of history that most textbooks either skim over or ignore completely: the everyday lives of women who worked in Victorian brothels. I know, it sounds like a strange choice for a bedtime story, but honestly, it's a fascinating and often forgotten chapter of the past. These were real women doing whatever they could just to survive. Before we get into it, if you're enjoying these stories, I'd love it if you hit like or subscribe, and I'm always curious. Where are you listening from? And what time is it there? Drop a comment. It blows my mind to think people are falling asleep to these stories from all over the world. All right, settle into your cozy spot. Take a slow, deep breath and let your body sink into whatever you're lying on. We're heading back to Victorian London, and trust me, by the end of this, you'll be extra thankful for your modern mattress. So, congratulations. You've just woken up in London in the year 1857, right in the heart of the Victorian era. It's early morning, maybe 5 or 6 o'clock, and you're definitely not lying in a fancy 4-poster bed. Instead, you're stretched out on a lumpy horsehair mattress covered only with a thin woolen blanket. The sheets? Not exactly fresh. At best, they get changed once a week. They carry the faint scent of cheap lavender water, not quite strong enough to hide the musty smell beneath. The room is chilly. Coal for the fireplace is rationed, especially in the mornings. The walls are lined with faded floral wallpaper, peeling at the corners where dampness has crept in. And then there's the smell. A heavy, ever-present mix of coal smoke from thousands of chimneys, the stench of the Thames with its muddy, sewage-soaked air, and something sharper, sweeter, the perfumes and cosmetics that are tools of the trade here. Because yes, you're in a back room of a brothel in London's Haymarket district. It's not the roughest place you could end up, but it's far from the high-class establishments as well. You share this cramped little room with another woman. She's still asleep on her narrow bed, breathing slow and steady. You shift, and the old springs beneath you creak. Stretching your legs, you point your toes, feeling the brief tension before letting them relax again. For just a moment, it feels good to pause before the day begins. Outside, London is already stirring. You hear the rhythmic clip-clop of horse hooves on cobblestones, the rattling of cartwheels, and the early calls of street vendors. Fresh bread, someone shouts from a few streets away, their voice echoing between the tall, close-packed buildings. This is your life now, Mary. That's the name they call you here, though it's not the one your mother gave you. You've been working in this house for nearly 2 years, which makes you something of a regular fixture. You've watched countless other women come and go, some moving up to better houses, others slipping back into the poverty they came from. A few grew ill and never recovered. You sit up slowly, pulling the blanket around your waist. The floorboards are icy beneath your bare feet as you grab the wool shawl hanging from the bedpost and wrap it tightly around your shoulders. Much better. On the small table between the two beds sits a chipped ceramic pitcher and basin. The water inside has iced over during the night. London winters are brutal. You press your finger through the thin crust of ice, the sting of cold sharp against your skin, then splash your face. The shock jolts you fully awake, your breath catching for a second before you steady it again. Now, let's talk about how you ended up here, in this room, in this life. Because the truth isn't quite what people usually imagine. You weren't kidnapped or sold off as a child, though sadly that did happen to some, especially the youngest girls. You weren't seduced and abandoned by a gentleman, left alone and pregnant. though that story was all too common as well. No, your path here was far more ordinary, and in many ways, far more typical of how most women found themselves in this profession. You were a seamstress, a skilled one, with quick fingers and a sharp eye for detail. But in London, there were hundreds, even thousands, of women just like you, all chasing after the same poorly paid work. The British Quarterly once remarked that compared to the endless grind of a dressmaker's apprentice, factory work seemed like child's play. And they weren't wrong. You worked 14, sometimes 16 hours a day, squinting in dim light until your eyes burned. In winter, your hands cracked and bled from the cold. And all of it for starvation wages, just barely enough to keep a roof over your head. You lean back against the wall now, feeling the solid surface behind you as you roll your shoulders and exhale. Some of the tension slips away. That's better. Easy, steady breathing. You remember the turning point clearly. It was winter 3 years ago. You hadn't eaten in 2 days. Your rented room was freezing, your breath clouding in the air as you stitched desperately, trying to finish a commission that might pay for another week's lodging. Your fingers were so numb, you kept pricking them with the needle, leaving tiny spots of blood across the crisp white linen. That's when Jane came. You'd worked together once before, though now she looked different, healthier, better fed, wrapped in a wool dress that, while not elegant by upper-class standards, was warm, sturdy, and well-made. She carried food, real food, a steaming meat pie wrapped in paper. She sat with you while you devoured it, doing your best to hide just how desperate you felt. "There's a place," she finally said, "a house off Haymarket. The madam runs it strict but fair, no cruelty, no nonsense, 2 meals a day, a proper bed, even regular medical checks." She paused then, watching your face carefully. "You'd make in one night what you scraped together in a week here, Mary. And you wouldn't be working yourself to death for pennies." She nodded toward the pile of sewing by your side. You didn't answer straight away. You'd been raised in a proper, God-fearing home. But your parents were gone, your brothers scattered in search of work, and you were left here, slowly starving, one stitch at a time. The weight of that memory presses against you now, and you sink a little deeper into the mattress. Your breathing slows, steady, in and out. Around you, the house is beginning to stir. Footsteps on the stairs, heavy ones. Likely Mrs. Winters, the housekeeper, the clatter of coal being shoveled into the grates. And downstairs in the parlor, the crackle of a new fire being lit for the customers who will come later. The smell of coffee drifts upward. Real coffee, not chicory. A small luxury this house prides itself on. Beside you, your roommate stirs, mumbling in her sleep before rolling over. Lily, they call her here. She's a few years younger than you, maybe 19 to your 24. Auburn hair, the kind that seems to catch the fancy of the gentleman. She once told you she came from a factory in Manchester. The endless clamor of the looms had left her half-deaf in one ear. Time to get up properly now. There are routines to follow, expectations to meet. Mrs. Winters runs this house with strict discipline, and lateness is not something she tolerates. The madam, Mrs. Cartwright, to her face, though the girls jokingly call her Carty when she's out of earshot, expects everyone downstairs, tidy and ready by noon sharp. The brothel runs like clockwork. Mornings are for cleaning, bathing, and resting. Afternoons bring in a handful of regulars, mostly businessmen sneaking away during their long lunch breaks. Evenings and nights, of course, are the busiest. The house often hums with activity until the early hours of morning. But right now, In the stillness of the morning, you allow yourself a slower pace. On the bedside table sits a small tin. You take it up, remove the lump of beeswax inside, and warm it between your palms before smoothing it gently over your chapped lips. Another little luxury. Mrs. Cartwright insists the girls take care of themselves. "You're selling an illusion, my dears," she always says. "Gentlemen don't want to see the rough edges of a working woman's life." You nod to yourself at the thought. She's right. Most of the men who come here aren't looking for reality. They're chasing fantasy, escape, something they can't find in their respectable wives, their strict homes, or their dull routines. They want to feel special, powerful, or at the very least, noticed. You stand and stretch, arms rising toward the low ceiling, your muscles pulling pleasantly as your body loosens. The plain cotton nightdress you wear falls around your ankles, a far cry from the lace and silk costumes you put on when working. You cross the room to the small wardrobe and open it. Daytime clothes are different. Simple dresses, sturdy shoes, nothing that marks you as anything other than another working woman on London's streets. And that matters. While brothels themselves aren't illegal, soliciting in public is. The police tend to leave established houses alone, especially those that pay their bribes, but discretion is always wise. You choose a dark blue dress. It's slightly faded, but neatly mended. You lay it out on the bed and begin the slow process of dressing, slower than it will be later when quick changes between customers are sometimes needed. Stockings first, then petticoat, then the corset, laced loosely for daytime, just enough to give you shape without squeezing the breath from your lungs. As you dress, your mind drifts to the day ahead. Tuesdays are usually quiet. Maybe Mr. Phillips will stop by, the bank clerk who comes every other week, more interested in talking about his stamp collection than anything else, or perhaps that nervous young man who always gives the name Smith. He never stays longer than 15 minutes. Outside, London is fully awake now. The clatter and chatter grow louder. Children run shrieking past in the street below. A dog barks somewhere close by. A vendor's sing-song call rises above the din. Knives to grind, knives to grind. What always strikes you, even after years here, is the normality of it all. This life, this work society damns as the lowest degradation for women, plays out right beside ordinary London routines. The baker still delivers fresh loaves to the brothel, just as he does to the respectable boarding house next door. The coalman, the iceman, the tradesmen, they all come and go, supplying this place as they would any other household. You sit back down on the bed for a moment, centering yourself. In through your nose, out through your mouth, nice and easy, that's it. Then, a knock at the door, soft, polite. "Hot water, miss," comes a voice from the hall. It's young Betsy at the door, the maid of all work. She's only 13, far too young for the main business of the house. Mrs. Cartwright found her begging on the streets, half-starved, and took her in. Now, Betsy helps Mrs. Winters with chores, runs errands, and sleeps in a tiny little room off the kitchen. In a few years, she'll likely join the other girls, but for now, she's sheltered, and that alone makes her luckier than so many children wandering London streets. "Come in, Betsy," you call. The door creaks open, and the girl steps inside, balancing a large jug of steaming water. Her face is freshly scrubbed, her brown hair neatly braided. "Morning, Miss Mary," she says cheerfully, pouring the hot water into your basin. "Cold one today. Mrs. Winters says it might snow later." "Thank you, Betsy," you reply with a smile. "Have you had your breakfast yet?" "Yes, miss. Cook made porridge with treacle." There's coffee in the kitchen if you'd like some, and fresh bread too. This is another reason this house is better than many. Regular meals, proper food. In the worst brothels, girls might go hungry if business was slow, or be fed scraps not fit for anyone. But Mrs. Cartwright knows well-fed, healthy women bring in more money. Once Betsy leaves, you wash with the hot water, enjoying the warmth against your skin. The routine is calming. Face first, then neck, arms, under the arms, and finally, a quick rinse of your most private places. Full baths happen twice a week here, Wednesdays and Sundays, in the big copper tub brought into the kitchen. Honestly, that's more frequent than many respectable working-class women manage. After washing, you feel refreshed, more human somehow. You run a comb through your hair, dark brown and thick, falling halfway down your back when left loose. For the day, you twist it into a simple knot at the nape of your neck. Later, for work, you'll dress it up with curls and maybe the false hairpiece that adds volume. On the dresser, a small mirror leans against the wall, its silver backing spotted and faded with age. You glance at your reflection. Your face looks healthier now than in your seamstress days. Regular food has softened the hollows in your cheeks, bringing a touch of color back to your skin. But your eyes, those have changed, more guarded, more watchful. You've seen things, learned things. The innocent country girl you once were could never have imagined. You shake off the thought. No point dwelling on it. Better to focus on the tasks at hand. You lace your boots with practiced fingers. Each movement familiar, steady. Your breathing slows naturally. In and out, calm and controlled. Fully dressed, you're ready to begin the day. First comes breakfast, then the morning chores. Every girl has her share of duties. Yours are to dust the parlor and polish the glasses behind the small bar. Mrs. Cartwright insists that idle hands invite trouble, so even outside of working hours, the girls are always kept busy. Across the room, Lily finally stirs. She sits up with a wide yawn, brushing the tangle of auburn hair from her face. Morning, she mumbles. What time is it? Just past 7, you answer. Plenty of time yet. She nods, stretching her arms overhead. Had that dream again, she murmurs. The one about the seaside. Have you ever been, Mary, to the sea? Once, you say, remembering faintly. Brighton, years ago, when I was small. I'd like to go someday, Lily replies, her voice wistful. They say the air is different there. Cleaner air, space to breathe properly. That dream is common among the girls here, saving enough to leave London behind, to begin again somewhere far away. Some manage it, most never do. The money that feels so generous compared to other women's wages still slips through your fingers. Lodging and food take their share. Clothes and tools of the trade claim more. And then there are the little luxuries, the small comforts that make this life bearable. You will, you tell Lily, though you're not sure you truly believe it yourself. Keep putting something aside each week, even just a shilling. It adds up. She nods, but you both know how difficult saving really is. There's always something, a toothache that needs treating, a dress ruined beyond repair, a friend in trouble who needs help. Life always finds a way to consume whatever small cushion you try to build. For a moment, heaviness settles over you. Then, deliberately, you let it go. Your shoulders drop as you exhale. That's better. Easier. I'll see you downstairs, you tell Lily, who's finally swinging her legs out of bed. Don't be too long. Mrs. Winters was stomping about earlier. And you know what that means. She's in a mood. Lily grimaces. I'll hurry. You slip out, closing the door softly behind you. The narrow hallway is dim, the carpet worn from years of use. 4 other bedrooms line this floor, each much like your own. Below are the public rooms, the parlor where customers are welcomed, a small dining room, the kitchen, and the servants' quarters tucked at the back. Mrs. Cartwright's own chamber, the finest in the house, is on the ground floor, giving her a clear view of comings and goings. The building itself is tall and narrow, wedged between others on a quiet side street. From the outside, it looks entirely respectable. Clean curtains dress the windows, and the front door gleams with fresh paint. Nothing betrays its true purpose. No lanterns, no signs. Customers find their way here through the word of mouth, discreet advertisements in the right publications, and the whisper network of cabbies and hotel porters who earn a little commission for sending gentlemen to the door. As you descend the stairs, the scent of coffee grows stronger, mingling now with the smell of fresh bread and frying bacon. Your stomach grumbles at the promise. The wooden steps creak lightly beneath your feet, a familiar, homely sound. You run your hand along the banister, its surface worn smooth from countless other hands over the years. The house is waking fully now. Fires lit in the main rooms chase away that stubborn London chill. From the kitchen, Mrs. Winters' voice carries, sharp and commanding as she gives instructions to the cook. Ordinary domestic sounds, like any household starting its day. And for just a moment, you could almost believe this was any house, any life. There's a rhythm to the morning, steady, predictable, that guides you forward step by step. You feel yourself falling into that rhythm, your breath aligning with it, in and out, easy, calm. At the bottom of the stairs, you pause, simply being still. Your muscles feel loose and comfortable, your mind quiet. There's a kind of peace in this moment, in being alive, in having survived one more night in a city that swallows so many whole. The kitchen door stands open, spilling warm light into the hallway. From here, you can see the cook's broad back as she works over the stove. Betsy is already at work, setting the table in the corner where the servants and girls share their meals. Mrs. Winters sits nearby, spectacles balanced on her nose as she reads a letter, her gray hair neatly tucked beneath a cap. It's an ordinary sight, a quiet, steady moment before the complicated dance of the day begins. You draw in a deep breath, filling your lungs completely, then release it slowly. Your shoulders drop, the tension slipping away like water. Ready now, you step into the warmth of the kitchen, into the mingled scents of coffee, fresh bread, and wood smoke, into the gentle murmur of morning voices. Bacon sizzles in a pan, its rich aroma making your mouth water. Your stomach rumbles again, in eager response. "Morning, Mary," the cook calls without turning, her voice warm but brisk. She has that uncanny gift of recognizing each girl by her footsteps. "Sleep well?" "Well enough," you reply, moving to help Betsy with the table. The familiar rhythm is soothing, the weight of the plates, the neat placement of cutlery, hands moving on their own while your mind drifts elsewhere, soft and unfocused. Beyond these walls, London stirs to life. A church bell tolls the hour somewhere in the distance. Street vendors call out their wares. Neighbors chat across doorways. Children's voices rise and fall. The endless city hums, a symphony that swells and ebbs like breathing. In and out, like the waves Lily dreams of seeing at the seaside. The rhythm carries you, steady and calm, as you move about the warm kitchen, preparing breakfast alongside the others. The smell of fresh bread deepens as cook draws a loaf from the oven. Its crust is golden, crackling faintly as it cools on the sideboard. The kitchen table dominates the room, long, rectangular, scarred from years of use. 8 chairs are crowded around it, enough for the 5 girls working here now, plus Mrs. Winters, Betsy, and Cook. Mrs. Cartwright keeps her distance, dining in her private sitting room. She believes that separation is necessary for proper management. You slip into your usual chair. The seat is smooth beneath you, polished by countless bodies over the years. That sense of continuity is strangely comforting. The feeling of belonging to something that stretches back before you. You settle into its sturdy support. Cook arrives with a heavy pot of porridge, setting it on the table with a satisfying thud. Thick, creamy, made with milk instead of water, sweetened with a spoonful of treacle. Another small luxury that places this house a step above the most meager establishments. "Eat up while it's hot," Cook says firmly, her broad face flushed from the heat of the stove. A widow in her 50s, she came here after her husband's death, left her with nothing. She never comments on the business of the house, only cooks, tends to her duties, and insists that the girls eat well. In her eyes, good food is the foundation of health. You ladle yourself a generous bowl. Steam curls upward, fragrant and inviting. The first spoonful is hot and sweet, smooth on your tongue. You close your eyes for a moment, savoring the simple comfort of warm food on an empty stomach. Gradually, the others drift in. Emily arrives first, a petite blonde who has been here for about 6 months. Next comes Sarah, one of the older women at nearly 30. She has a no-nonsense manner and a surprising gift for numbers, which is why she often helps Mrs. Cartwright with the accounts. Then Josephine slips in, the newest of the girls. She's still adjusting, her eyes often red from private tears. Lily is the last to appear, hair hastily pinned. Looking half asleep, she takes the chair beside you, just as Mrs. Winters begins pouring coffee. "Nearly missed breakfast," you murmur, sliding the porridge pot toward her. "Worth it for 10 more minutes in bed," she whispers back, with a small smile. The coffee here is another luxury. Real coffee, not the cheap chicory substitute most working-class families drink. It's strong, hot, and sweetened with sugar for those who like it that way. You cradle your cup in both hands, letting its warmth sink into your fingers. The aroma rises with the steam, rich, dark, slightly bitter, comforting. Breakfast is a quiet affair. There's an unspoken rule: no business talk this early. Instead, the chatter drifts to everyday things. The weather, a laugh about the butcher's boy slipping in the alley yesterday, a guess at whether the greengrocer's wife might be expecting again. Simple talk, the sort you'd hear at any kitchen table across London. And that normality matters. It's a reminder that despite the life you lead, this is still a household. People living, eating, sleeping, and carrying on their days. You feel yourself easing into the calm, shoulders loosening, breathing slow and steady. The food settles warm in your stomach, fueling you for what's ahead. Another sip of coffee, rich, a little bitter, and you're ready. After breakfast, the work begins. The house runs on a strict schedule. Every girl has duties, not only for efficiency, but because Mrs. Cartwright insists that routine and responsibility keep order and ward off the chaos that ruins lesser establishments. This morning, your tasks are simple: dusting the parlor and polishing the glasses in the small bar. Repetitive work that keeps your hands busy while your mind drifts. There's something almost meditative in it, the steady rhythm, the quiet satisfaction of turning dust to shine, dullness to polish. The parlor is the heart of the house, the first room where customers are welcomed. It's furnished to appear respectable, with a hint of luxury. Heavy dark wood, red velvet upholstery, a little worn at the arms but still plush, curtains to match, tied back to let in what little light London's coal-smoked sky allows, a few paintings on the walls, mostly landscapes, and one classical piece with softly draped nymphs, suggestive but not scandalous. Nothing too obvious. Nothing that would shout brothel to a casual visitor. That's deliberate. The veneer of respectability is protection. If the police ever came knocking, they'd see nothing illegal at a glance. Only a private home with several young women living there. Perhaps suspicious, yes, but not enough for proof. You set to work with your duster, moving carefully around the room. Each stroke steady and methodical. You start with the feather duster, sweeping across the larger surfaces. Then you switch to a slightly damp cloth for the finer details. The rhythm of it is familiar, almost comforting. It takes just enough focus to keep your hands busy, but not so much that your mind can't wander. All around you, the house hums with life. Mrs. Winters is in the kitchen, teaching Betsy the proper way to black the range. From the same room comes the steady thump of dough being kneaded, the cook humming tunelessly as she works. Overhead, you can make out Lily's light footsteps as she moves about making the beds. Ordinary sounds, the kind you'd hear in any home. The mantelpiece is lined with little treasures, a porcelain shepherdess, a small brass clock, a pair of decorative urns. Each one you dust carefully, returning it to its exact place. Mrs. Cartwright notices if even the smallest thing is out of position. The clock ticks steadily, its rhythm anchoring the quiet of the morning. Through the window, London carries on as always. A maid in the yard next door beats dust from a heavy rug. A cat, deliberate and graceful, picks its way along a garden wall. A boy dashes past, a folded message clutched tightly in his hand. You move next to the small bar tucked in the corner of the room. And so, another morning begins in this quiet house on a narrow London street. Behind the polished furniture and ordinary routines lies a world built on secrets, survival, and the choices women made when society left them with none. Every creak of the stairs, every cup of coffee, every carefully folded dress carries its own story. Stories that rarely make it into history books, but shaped lives all the same. If you've been drawn into Mary's world and want to keep following her journey, don't forget to like this video and subscribe. There are so many more chapters ahead of hardship, resilience, and unexpected moments of hope, and you won't want to miss them.